Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining the Certification and Credentialing Monthly Call. We will begin in just a moment. We're exiting the AI bots and admitting our final guests. Good morning once again, and thank you so much for joining us today. Fall is getting a little bit closer, and I hope that the fall weather will join the season of fall for us soon. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We're thrilled that you were able to take some time out of your busy schedule to spend it with us. So today we'll have some opening remarks. We'll review our call norms. We'll share some processing by the numbers, go into certification updates. We'll have an update from Ms. Bell with background credentialing, Mr. Colin with educator development. We'll share some information about our LEC portal with Ms. Hutchinson, share some reminders and important dates and resources with you. Just a reminder, we in the Division of Educator Talent and Workforce Development for all of our calls have started with the new year some specific call norms. We do have a individual who has sent questions here. So you can go ahead, any questions throughout the call, go ahead and send those over, and we will share those questions and the answers to those at the end of the call. We do ask that you remain on topic. We know that there are oftentimes specific situations that you may have questions about. And if we have time at the end of the call, we typically do open it up. Let's go ahead to the next slide, and we'll start with our numbers. So you can see that in the month of August, we processed well over 3,000 applications. Again, credit to our amazing team for their time and diligence. The average processing time was about 19 business days, which doesn't surprise us because we were neck deep in peak season. Happy to share with you that all cases in Salesforce have been closed. We did meet actually a day ahead of our deadline. We were able to close all of those cases out on Friday, which is very exciting. And now all of our specialists are moving into LEC processing. So you should see those applications being processed. We were obviously shy of our 15-day business sort of SMART goal that we have, but we did process about 24% of all cases within 15 business days. We did or have cleared 17,000 cleared credentials since we started this process in January. And the process is going extremely smoothly, and credit to Ms. Bell and her specialist for the amazing work there. In the month of August alone, we did process over 2,000 cleared credentials, and the process is going extremely smoothly in LEC. And we are getting more and more confident with the processing and our partnership with the Louisiana State Police Department, and the confidence that we have in securing wrap backs once an individual receives that cleared credential, has been firmed up and is very solid. At this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Rachel Norman, our Director of Certification, for some policy updates. Ms. Norman?
Thank you, Dr. Joe Freon, and thank you, everybody. So we do have two quick updates that we would like to share. So updates to Bulletin 746, specifically around Educational Leader Level 1, was brought to the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education in August to update this portion or this section of policy to now include ancillary teaching certificates as one of the certificate types that will now be eligible to pursue this pathway. So prior to this update, an individual holding only an ancillary teaching certificate would not be able to pursue this pathway without having to enroll in and complete a teacher preparation program. So this update did expand the administrative pipeline to allow individuals now holding this type of ancillary to enroll in and complete any of the state-approved pathways. So one quick caveat to this is, although it does include all of the ancillary teaching, so that includes talented, JROTC, counselor, librarian, any of those, the one ancillary teaching that it does not allow is the ECAC, the Early Childhood Ancillary Certificate. So any other ancillary certificate holder that is now seeking to pursue educational leader certification, once it comes off of notice of intent, which we're hopeful that it will probably be December, January. Then once it's added to Bulletin 746, this individual can now pursue certification via our office without having to appeal. So the next update was something that we sent to Bessie back, I believe, in March. And we're happy to announce that this has now been it has officially come off of notice of intent and is now adopted into Bulletin 746. So any educator looking to add on, because this is for add-on, not initial, but for add-on, any educator looking to add on a secondary non-core area, Bulletin 746 now has removed the literacy requirement. We have also updated all of our checklists that are available on teachlouisiana.net to reflect this change. Those are the updates that I had regarding certification. So now I will turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Paula Bell, to go over educator background credentialing updates.
Good morning. Thanks, Rachel. So this slide, there's a bit of a review here. We've presented some of this information before, so I'm going to hit on this very quickly. I've included links to some of the most used reference documents around the Clear Credential and fingerprinting process. These are also posted on teachlouisiana.net under the certification tab. If you're verifying records on teachlouisiana.net and you don't see that an educator has a clear credential, there are a few things you can do on your end before having to reach out to LDOE or Identigo. First, ask the educator if he or she used the proper service code that would allow the criminal background check to be transmitted to us. Service code 27N5HQ would be used for those fingerprinting, to schedule fingerprinting so that the CBC comes to us. Have them check their fingerprinting status online at youenroll.identigo.com/status-check. It's linked here. They can go online and check the status. Have them check their email. So sometimes prints are rejected and they will be notified to reschedule their fingerprinting at no cost, but they have to check their email to see that. And if it's been at least 3 weeks since they've been fingerprinted and there still is no credential appearing online, please reach out to my team by emailing educatorclearance@la.gov. If you can get the applicant to provide the fingerprinting receipt, that helps us when we investigate and find out, well, why didn't it transmit? So that's helpful. Remember that using the clear credential for the criminal background check while hiring is allowable in state law under Louisiana Revised Statute 1715B. So check teachlouisiana.net for a clear credential, just like you would their certification. And our guidance has been that while implementing this new 2025 CBC for certification law, public school systems should decide if they want to rely on certification, specifically the clear credential, or not. That would be a school system decision if you want to rely on it instead of having them be fingerprinted for employment with you. If you need additional guidance on this topic, reach out to me again, educatorclearance@la.gov, and I can share with you the applicable laws and certain things to consider, such as convictions versus arrests and so on. On the next slide, persons with prohibited convictions, those in RS 15587.1C, or whose name is recorded on the DCFS Central Registry as a person who has a substantiated complaint of child abuse or neglect on or after August 1st, 2018, cannot be hired by a local public school board or a non-public school system. So we've mentioned this in the past, but we've received more guidance from DCFS. School systems may request a clearance check through DCFS through our CAN system. There is no fee to do this, no fee to run the clearance for employing school systems. And to request access, we have linked the access guides here for your public schools and for your non-public schools. And for help with actual questions or access questions, you would contact your local security coordinator, and they can authenticate your account. But once you get into the system, if you have any problems, please refer to the CANS user guide. I've linked it here on this slide. DCFS provided this guide. It takes you step by step. They've also provided a direct email address and phone number so that if you encounter any issues when checking that, checking CANS, they can help you with that. So on the next slide, what I would like to do is just bring your attention as an HR user or a preparation provider, authenticated user in our new system, LEC. You will be prompting your employees or teacher candidates to complete certification applications. If you attempt to send a certification application in the system and the only application type you can send is the fingerprint clearance required before proceeding application, then you need to go ahead and check teachlouisiana.net to see if the person has been issued a clear credential or not. If you find the person has a clear credential, the applicant may very well just need to validate his or her social security number so that LEC will talk to the teacher certification management system and see the clear credential there, which allows the applicant access to all other application types. So one thing that we're noticing is that applicants are doing certain things they're doing and they're not realizing is that they start that fingerprint application, but they never check out using the button on the lower left menu with the little shopping cart icon. And I've pasted it in here on this slide so you'll know what it looks like. They need to click it and they need to check out. There is no fee for completing that fingerprint clearance required before proceeding application, but they panic because in some cases they've already been fingerprinted and they've already been cleared, and they just don't realize that all they need to do is click Add New Application to see the full menu. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention. The fingerprinting packet, again, it doesn't require a fee and simply is used to collect their Social Security information, ID, and professional conduct form. So help them understand that, look around on LEC, look for Start New Application, and don't panic. It's there. It's there. So I think that's all I have. No, got one more slide. This is another thing they do. They keep clicking on My Applications. They see that fingerprinting packet again. They realize, well, why can't I see something else? And you'll notice there on the bottom right-hand corner of this slide, it says continue. That means they didn't check out. They need to continue and check out. Or if they've already been cleared, they can just click the remove and it will remove that application in their queue. Remember that incomplete applications will be deleted automatically after 45 days, but the system will continue to send them reminder emails that they have an application they need to complete. So point out those buttons to them so that they can eliminate the incomplete or complete the application. So thank you so much for your attention. And now I'll turn it over to our Deputy Director of Certification and our resident LEC expert, Ms. Lana Hutchinson.
Good morning. Thank you, Paula. So we just want to provide a few updates and talk about how the system is going. And so far, we're really enjoying working in the new system, and we hope you are too. We understand that learning is difficult, and anytime there's a little bit of change, it takes a few attempts to get comfortable with the new system, but we hope you're all starting to see some of the benefits of having the more streamlined system in place. As we've been saying, the LEC features have been integrated into the Louisiana Educator Portal. We hope that you have all requested your access and have everything set up, but in case you have not, we'll reminders of what's required to have HR or prep provider permissions. Public school personnel should only need to request the permissions. You do need, of course, a Louisiana Educator profile inside the Louisiana Educator Portal. But otherwise, you should just need to request HR permissions. If your school system did not use the Louisiana Educator Portal for evaluation last year, some of you may need to create your account if you don't already have one. But for a large percentage, you'll just need to request those HR permissions. Non-public school personnel and preparation providers will need an eScholar staff ID, the MILA account to create their profile, and then to request the permissions. The instructions to request those permissions are linked on teachlouisiana.net. We are also just letting everyone know if you have requested the permissions and you have them for a day or so and then they disappear. We are only granting HR permissions or prep provider permissions to individuals that are on authorized signature documentation with our office. If you have some folks who are requesting those permissions and those permissions keep getting removed, that very likely means they are not on any of our authorized signature documents. And then please just reach out to us for information on how to update your authorized signatures if there is someone else that needs to have access that keeps having their permissions removed. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of people who are maybe just curious folks or kind of click happy coming in and requesting HR permissions that are not people that should have those roles. And so we are doing regular audits and removing anyone that does not have authorized signatures on file with our office. Can we go back a slide, please? Oh, all right. There we go. So again, send that request through the Teacher Certification Help Center. If you don't have an authorized account on teachlouisiana.net, if you need to access any of the links and the resources that are currently only for HR and prep providers. And then also that is something that is also requested with the authorized signature forms, is to get those authorized accounts for teachlouisiana.net. So if you are a non-public or preparation provider and you don't have a staff ID, the instructions are included on this slide on how to request that staff ID. You just visit the EdLink Ops portal and indicate whether you're non-public personnel or preparation provider, insert your information, save and submit. That request does take a day or two to process and then to link to your profile. We are seeing a lot of folks make the staff ID request and then immediately try to move to the next step and then asking our office for assistance because they can't do anything yet. So just, it does take a day or two. Give it a little bit of time. You can also check your own status of your staff ID or to see if you have one. If you Google EdLink Security and then select your user profile. On the user profile in EdLink Security, if you have a staff ID, it'll show right there. And then you'll know that the staff ID is present and you can move to the next step, which is requesting the permissions. So for your applicants, we are getting a lot of requests for assistance about login issues that individual teachers are having. If they already used LEP for evaluation last year or are already set up to use it for evaluation this year, they don't need any additional access or any additional accounts to start applications. They only need a MILA account if they're not already set up in LEP. If they are not already set up for evaluation purposes or reported in public school data systems, they will also need to validate their Social Security number. A really large percentage of the questions we're receiving right now are from people who have not validated their Social Security number. They'll simply select a validator and upload a copy of their card. It does, again, take a day or two for those to be reviewed. It's not an AI check that will automatically process it. An actual person has to look at the request, make sure the information entered matches the Social Security number provided, and then the SSN will be validated. Once that's been validated, as Paula mentioned, then LEP can read the teacher certification management system and check for clear credentials, pull in certifications, and then access to applications is available once that connection has been made. New hires, other applicants that are not reported in your data reporting may also need to manually validate their Social Security number. LEP does look at other reporting systems, EdLink 360, eScholar, and if a Social Security number is entered for a profile that is already reported, validated by their employing school system, then we don't require the manual validation on top of that. But if they're not already in state systems, then they will just need to manually validate their Social Security number. There is a knowledge article on the Teacher Certification Help Center that's titled Logging into the Louisiana Educator Portal. We encourage you to share that with your educators that are struggling. That includes the information about validating the Social Security number if necessary. And then on the main page of the Louisiana Educator Portal, there are links to login support to show who to contact depending on where you're currently employed. Public school systems should have local resources, your security coordinators and data administrators, many of whom can assist with connecting the accounts and making sure and assisting with login issues. And for those, whether in non-public, provider candidates, educators that are not currently employed, the data system support team can assist with those login issues if there are no local resources available that can help. So we have, based on the questions we're receiving, there are some kind of misconceptions already about the portal and how it works. Current employment is not required for an educator to access LEP and start an application. We're getting a lot of questions that say, well, I'm not employed, so I can't start an application. And that's not at all true. If somebody is a potential, either a candidate in a program or a potential hire that's not yet officially been hired, they can still start applications. They just likely need to validate their Social Security number before they'll have access to do that. They're also not required to be reported in public schools 25-26 data records to start an application and send it to your office for review and signature. Now, for our public school systems, you can only send start application requests to the people that are reported in your 25-26 data records, but anybody, anywhere can start an application and choose your HR office as the authority to sign it, and it'll be sent to you. Our non-public schools, anybody can choose your HR office and send you that application, but you would only be able to send start application requests if you're using member codes and your individuals have submitted their requests to be a member of your non-public school. And similarly with preparation providers, you're the one group that you can only send applications to people that have been set up as candidates in your program, but nobody can send you an application if they're not tied to you. So that the preparation programs, if someone wanted to send one of our providers an application of some sort, they won't even have the option to select unless they have requested to be connected to your program and you have accepted them. If any applicant that has an account for any reason already, a MILA account already, or already has a profile in LEP, they should not, for any reason, create a new separate account. This creates a lot of back-end conflicts that takes a good bit of manual work from the technology team to straighten out, merge those two accounts, and then get them back on their way with applications. If they were employed in a different school system last year and they're now employed with your school system, it's fine if their account still says they're employed with the old school system. Once data records have been updated, that'll sync with LEP and it'll all get straightened out. They should continue to log into the account they used the previous year. If they're enrolled in a preparation program and employed with a school system, they should use the same account for both preparation program applications and for anything related to their certification, employment, evaluation, any of those sorts of things. If they can't remember their password, they should reach out for help, not try to just create a new account. If they, for any other reason, cannot log into their existing account, they need to contact Data Systems or your local resources for support to get connected to that original account. Every time someone creates a second account, it is a lot of work to get it fixed. And they won't have access to all their previous information until everything gets straightened out. So it's one account across their career. All of their history for evaluation and applications and all of that will be saved in one place. And they just need to continue to use one consistent account even as they move around to different steps in their career path. With the applications, we're also getting some questions about, do we still have to submit this, or is this thing no longer required? Except in a very few places where we have added additional documentation required, the documentation required for certification has not changed. The supporting documents that were required with the PDF documents are still required in LEC, and there will be prompts for where to upload each of those specific documents throughout the application. So if you receive an application that seems to be missing something that usually is included with that type of request, we encourage you to pause and ask questions, double check the work, make sure it's the right application, that the right request was made, so that all of the required information is being provided. And similarly, we are also hearing some educators say their HR office is saying, I can't help you. That we can't do anything with this application. All applications that previously had to be submitted by HR offices still have to be signed and verified by their HR office. Similarly, everything that was previously needing preparation provider verification still does. But there are some applications that don't require any HR verification, and in which case the applicants can start and submit them themselves. One of the great advantages of the LEC system is that it has allowed us to control for a lot of the common reasons when we would return an application without processing. Failing to include the IDs, typos on the Social Security number on the professional conduct form, failing to answer all of the questions on the conduct form, missing receipts. Those kinds of things are virtually impossible in LEC. And so we are loving the streamlined, more complete applications that we're receiving. But technologically, it is also very, very difficult for us to cancel an application that is submitted through LEC. Once it's been submitted, once it's been checked out and submitted to our office, it cannot be modified. They can't add something if they realize they forgot to attach it. They can't cancel the request, make a different request. None of those things technologically can happen. Once it's been submitted, it's locked and will be processed the way that it was submitted. Should you believe, an urgent need to cancel an application, that's going to be very, very difficult and will require approval by our office to cancel it. And then it will be difficult to reuse the payment and to restart the application. So we really strongly encourage you to check your work, check the educator's work, make sure the applications are complete before they make that payment and submit the application. We also will not be closing applications without processing. LEC feeds all the applications directly into our certification management database, which is awesome. I cannot overstate the administrative time savings there for the manual process we previously had to move applications from the previous system into the management system. But because of that, Everything is, as soon as it's been submitted through LEC, it's been tied to the management system. And so we will be processing every application submitted through LEC based on the documentation that was provided, and providing, rather than responding via email only and saying, we're closing this application and you need to start over, we will be providing feedback in formal feedback letters through the teacher certification management system and available on teachlouisiana.net. So some of the very common questions that we're receiving is, why does this teacher or candidate not have the Start New Certification application button? If they can log into LEC successfully and see their My Educator profile, then 99% of the time, the issue is they have not validated their social security number. If it's not that, it might be their email address, but almost always it's their educator profile is not fully complete and they need to enter and or validate their social security number. Now that's when the Start New Certification application button just is not available. They look at their profile and there is no option to start. We are also seeing, as Paula mentioned, folks who have the Start New Certification application button, but instead of using that button or the Add New Application button, they're just going to My Applications and they see the fingerprint packet there and they think that means that they can't start anything else. So there's a couple places folks are getting confused there. If the teacher candidate has a clear credential, you verified that on teachlouisiana.net, but the fingerprint packet is the only one that you can send to them, that means their profile is not connected to the teacher certification management database and they need to enter and validate their social security number. If you can send them other applications, but they're saying they still only have the fingerprint packet, then it's likely what Paula was talking about. They're going to My Applications, seeing the fingerprint packet there, and not choosing to start a new one or add a new application to start something else. If you, as an authorized user, are trying to request the permissions in EdLink Security, and when you get to the role selection step, there are no roles available. Again, 99% of the time, that means you do not have a staff ID. And you can check your EdLink Security user profile to see if a staff ID is present. If one is not, then back on that slide, a couple slides back, were the instructions for how to request a staff ID. Now, as I mentioned a couple slides ago, there is some help information available on the homepage of LEC before you log in. And that information is who to contact for support. K-12 public schools, traditional public schools, or public charters having login issues. Again, your local security coordinator and or data administrator may be able to provide assistance. If they cannot provide assistance, then they can reach out to data system support. We do encourage those local resources to be the one to reach out to data systems, as it helps. If they learn how to resolve that issue with the first person, then they already know how to resolve the issue for the next person. And so it helps to kind of distribute the support and allow people to get assistance more quickly. If you're anyone that's not employed in K-12 traditional public or public charter schools, so preparation providers and their candidates, non-public personnel, or those that are not actively employed by anyone at the current time, they can reach out directly to data system support. On the form that you fill out for data system support, we have heard from some folks that it prompts for a site code. If they, especially for the like candidates or people who aren't employed, if they don't have a site code that they can provide, they can just use 000 to get past that prompt and continue to submit their request for support. Now, questions about Social Security number validation or about certification requirements, the applications themselves, those questions can be submitted through the Teacher Certification Help Center. We very much wish we could provide more support for login. At least for myself, I'm having previously supported the previous system and being able to resolve people's issues ourselves. It is a partnership with data system support, and I wish that we could answer more of those questions when they're sent to our office, but we do not have the technological tools to check EdLink security profiles, all the connections of data that is what often is causing login issues when they can't log in or getting specific error messages. It's very often a problem in the data systems that the certification office just cannot address. So there are some available resources on teachlouisiana.net to help ease the transition. There are user guides specific to each role. Be sure you're using the one that is specific for your user group. We have had some public school folks asking questions from the non-public guide or from the preparation provider guide where those steps don't apply because that's not the individual's role. There are also recorded training sessions for both HR and preparation providers that are available by logging into an authorized account. I encourage you, we're starting to get a lot of questions about which application do we use for which type of request. So I encourage you to use the LEC application lists with descriptions that are available also on teachlouisiana.net. There's an alphabetical list that lists all the applications that are available in LEC with a brief description of what requests are made with that application. And there's also a crosswalk from the PDF applications to the LEC applications. So if you know in your head, I would go use this application to make this request, you can pull that crosswalk from the PDFs to the LEC applications, find the application that you would have used, and then it'll just crosswalk to which of the LEC applications should be used instead. And then again, a reminder about the logging into the Louisiana Educator Portal knowledge article. That article does seem to help a lot of folks figure out where they've missed a step in creating their accounts for your individual applicants. And then lastly, just an update on the Teach LA Live retirement. As Dr. Joe Freon said at the beginning of the call, we have officially processed and closed all of the PDF applications that have been submitted. We're now working on the data migration to get all of that information retained and stored where we will still have access to it once Teach LA Live is retired. That Teach LA Live website itself, though, will remain available through the end of the month to access features like history, where you can double check a response to a previously submitted application. We do encourage you to, if you have questions about submitted applications, knowing that we're now finished processing those, if you feel there's something you have not received a response, we encourage you to check your history before the 30th and make sure that you have that information. We are working with the technology team to try to figure out if there would be some way for us to connect the data that we will be pulling out of Teach LA Live back to the original person that submitted it to give you access to some of that history in the future. But that will not be available immediately on September 30th, and it may take some time if it's even at all technologically possible to reconnect that history. Our office will have access to it, and if you have questions about a case that was submitted in PDF format after September 30th, you can always use the Teacher Certification Help Center to submit a question to our office. We will be able to pull it and show you the response that was sent if you can't find it yourself. But again, we encourage you to make use of history while you have it to make sure you also have kind of wrapped up your understanding of the response to every PDF application. And then we look forward to moving into the future with LEC. I believe that's my last slide. And so I will now turn it over to Britt Colin for some updates from Ed Development on Mentor Teacher Content Leader.
Thank you so much, Lana. Great information. Good morning, everyone. I just have a few slides to share with you this morning. This slide we shared with you last month, but we wanted to share it with you again. The following two slides will contain information on the vendors who were approved to assess content leader and mentor teacher portfolio assessments, and they have begun scoring portfolio assessments already. The chart contains information on the vendor, their contact information, which assessments they will be assessing, the cost, and which applicants they will serve. You're encouraged to have your participants reach out to these vendors for more information about submitting their portfolios. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact mentor and content leaders at la.gov. Beginning next week, this chart will be available on the LDOE website. Just a reminder, when applying for a resident or practitioner licenses, systems are required to upload evidence of the approved mentor waivers or alternate waivers. You may do so by uploading the email that is automatically generated by JotForm upon approval of the waiver as your evidence. And excuse me, lastly, just a timeline for the mentor and resident data collection. Um, Today, we will be sending out some information we requested from our AAA department. As of September 10th, all of the resident and PL licenses that have been issued through September 10th, that information will be shared with all EPPs. That information will be shared with EPPs via the FTP. October 6th data collection. This data requested from our AAA department will be as of October 1st, which is the final day licenses can be issued to be eligible for the resident stipend. We'll be sharing that with all of our system leads on October 6th. And then just a reminder that the reporting period of October 7th through the 29th, this is the opportunity for systems to update their systems with all the information that connects with EdLink. It is strongly recommended that systems complete reporting in EdLink early and then reach out to our team to review the data to ensure accuracy. If you'd like for our team to review the data once it's been approved or once it's been completed, please contact mentor and content leaders at la.gov. We would be happy to jump on a call or a Zoom to discuss any discrepancies. And with that, I will turn it back over to Ms. Rachel Norman to conclude the call and begin reading through some questions and answers.
Thank you, Britt. Okay, so our important dates, this week in a few days, we actually have the Superintendent's Advisory Council. The next couple weeks is actually pretty packed. So next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, Britt and his team will be facilitating the Educational Leader Alternate Pathway for Boot Camp, which I know they're really excited about. Next week, we have our preparation provider call. And then also next week, y'all have LASASPA, which we will be presenting at, and we hope to see most, if not all of y'all there. Of course, our supports and resources, we always like to provide that information where we do link all of our relevant links, which include teachlouisiana.net, LEP, all of the school system planning resource guides, and then of course, Bulletin 746. And then lastly, we always like to end just showing y'all a snapshot of the calls. So our next call is October 20th at 10:30. And then of course, we list all of the calls for the remainder of the school year. And so with that, we will go through, or I will go through reading the questions and answers. So we did get a pretty decent amount of questions regarding CANS. That CANS is not currently working at this time. And Paula has already sent an email to OTS, the Office of Technology Services, to request an update on any CANS outage. So we are hopeful that we will get an update for y'all very, very soon. Next question, with the updates to Bulletin 746 regarding ancillary certification, will this being able to add on administrative supervisor credentials? Does this mean that ancillary certificates can now add on mentor credential? No, at this time, the update is only specific to, but it was only brought before Bessie for educational leader certification, not mentor. The next question, does the 45 days start on the day that the application is sent to them, or the day the educator starts the application? I do believe that it is the day that the application is started. Next question, with the new LEC, I still have candidates that have not finished their practitioner license applications. I fear that they will not be awarded by the October 1st deadline. So I know we have been communicating throughout the course of the last couple certification monthly calls that we are, if a application was submitted on or before September 1st, as long as the applicant does meet policy requirements, that we will guarantee issuance or processing. We did we did honor that. And then any applications, of course, submitted after September 1st, we are still pulling and prioritizing those. And again, we are processing those as quickly as possible in accordance with policy. Next question, for teacher candidates in a preparation provider program that may or may not already have a MILA account, which username or email address should be used to create the MILA account? We were told not to use the email address as the user ID, that the user ID cannot be changed, and also told if a teacher of record for a district, should they not use their district email? Is this correct? So that is going to be a question for our Office of Technology Services. So you can email any type of login support to systems support at la.gov. So systems support at la.gov, as OTS can assist with account creations and in resolving any sort of conflicts with creating accounts, whereas the certification and background credentialing team does not have that level of access. So next question, we have a large number of employees who are receiving login errors when trying to create accounts in the portal. Is there any sort of troubleshooting guides for data coordinators to assist with that issue? Again, just like with the last question and answer, unfortunately, we don't have the capacity or bandwidth to assist with that. And so any data coordinator can email the LDOE help support team. Their email address is linked directly on the homepage of LEC. Next question, we are having teachers having this message, no eScholar record associated with your login. Again, that is going to be a system support at la.gov question that you'll need to direct to them. Next question, I indicated an initial certificate for an educator. The dates on her mentor attestation were incorrect. It said to submit the correct mentor attestation form. How do I do that? That is a question that you will likely want to submit to our teacher certification help portal. Just provide as much information as possible, and someone from our team will get back with you as quickly as possible. Next question, is there a possibility of extending ancillary to mentor teachers since that is a pathway to leadership? Again, at this time, ancillary is not being considered as one of the certificates that can pursue mentor teacher. If in the future that there is something that is being considered, we will certainly use this platform to communicate that out. Next question, I've made several attempts to validate a Social Security, and educators are receiving an error message. Some teachers have changed school systems. Again, that should be directed to system support at la.gov. Next question, what is the reason for changing from 90 days to 45 days to complete the application process? This is hard for large preparation providers because we don't have a dedicated person that just does certification. So the answer to that is with the new certification system, LEC, the process moves a lot more fluidly without an applicant having to complete any sort of static PDFs and emailing back and forth or printing and delivering to employers or preparation providers. The system does also send alerts to remind stakeholders to complete their parts of the application, and that's all going to be under that requested actions portion of their portal. The Office of Technology Services did set the expiration time period of 45 days to consideration for our digital storage. Next question, what do we tell a student who is receiving the no eScholar account? Again, that's system support at la.gov. Next question, is it possible to code or add a notification that an individual needs to validate their social security number? We are seeing the clear credential reminder. Our residents are getting confused since they have a clear credential. So that is located on the home page of LEC. So the text does state if a profile displays any sort of red indicator that the individual is to follow the on-screen instructions to verify that information. Next question, as I'm working on the prep provider portion of initial applications, it asks the teacher candidate that completed the program on or after 9/1, and the only answer you can give is a yes or no. Then it asks the same question again, was that intentional? Yes, that was intentional. Next question, for someone completing an add-on but not currently working for a public institution, who will sign off as HR? So an educator can initiate the request to add on a certification on their own behalf. In that instance, no employer signature is needed, but the educator will need to ensure that they do have a valid certificate prior to doing so. If they don't have a valid certificate and maybe ceased employment, then they should first work to retroactively freeze their certificate before their request for the add-on is submitted. Next question, how can you fix a problem with a graduate who is trying to become initially certified, but the verification code goes to an old or previous email address? That is a system support login question that should be directed to systemsupport@la.gov. Next question, I have a teacher who resigned from my district and I was told I can request a renewal for her and then place it into non-practicing status. However, can I send a request for the RH if she isn't on my list of teachers? She will need to start the application herself and then send it to your office for review. Next question, is there a way to connect a student who started their own application? Answer, they cannot start any program-related applications themselves because that is initiated by the prep provider. However, a candidate can request to connect to your program at any time. The applicant guide that is posted on the homepage of LEC does show how the applicant connects to a preparation provider. Next question, who uploads the supporting documentation such as ID, social security cards? That all lives under the portion that the educator will submit. Next question, when applications are submitted in LEC, there is no email notification or case number provided. If the preparation provider needs to reference the application, is the only way to reference it via office hours by using the candidate's name. Answer, the case number is not set until the application is assigned to a specialist. And then in that instance, they do have a case that can be viewed on teachlouisiana.net. So the name and application type should be sufficient in order for to locate that application. Next question, how can HR submit forms that do not require payment? There are multiple applications that do not require payment and they can be uploaded to LEC, such as feedback follow-up, employment verification, etc. The applicant always has to start those applications and then send it to your office to provide that additional information. If it's, verification of employment or, anything else similar to that. Next question, are we supposed to screen all potential employees or only early childhood employees? School systems are required to check the state central registry through CANS for all employees hired on or after August 1st. Next question, once Teach Louisiana is shut down, where will we be able to locate or find praxis results? That information is still going to be accessible on teachlouisiana.net by simply typing in your authenticated username or password. Next question, I do like LEC, okay, so question, must all fields in the in-state experience verification form be filled out when using the direct ed link import? Is this something that can be moved to the applicant? This form is the biggest bugaboo I've seen, and it really should be solely the applicant who required fields to be completed. So just as with PDF applications, the grades, subjects, and roles are important required information for certification. So we do recommend using the imported link with caution, as it's not always easier to update the imported records. Applicants can pre-populate that information, but the HR office is required to verify and sign it. So many school systems did not want the educator entering this information, but at the end of the day, it is a local level decision if you require your educators to complete this information before you review. So we would just communicate what your individual school system's reference is. And the second question to that is regarding TATs. The GPA must be completed, therefore research even through the transcripts is already on file. Is there a mechanism to prevent having to hunt down a transcript? There is no current mechanism regarding the GPA field on the TAT application for initial or renewal. Next question is specific to mentor certification. LSU is still not appearing on the list of the mentor portfolios. Do we have any update about the replacement for Blue Board? The vendors on the chart do contain information regarding those vendors that have been approved to assess the mentor and content leader assessments. So those vendors did replace the services previously provided by Bloomboard, and additional vendors may apply next spring. So please be on the lookout for any requests for applications beginning in approximately April of 2026. Next question, we have noticed that an applicant's prior degrees are not always listed on the application. Do applicants need to enter that information and upload the transcripts there, even though their degrees are listed on the Teach Louisiana certification page? So the answer is, if the degree is showing up on Teach Louisiana, no additional transcript is needed, and that is just like it was in our previous system. At one point, there was a glitch in programming, which we are hopeful to have resolved, so those degrees do display properly. Last question, specifically, where are the recorded training sessions located, and how will we know about the mentor add-on applications submitted in LEC if those applications are sent directly to certification without HR? So recorded trainings are on teachlouisiana.net, but you will need to be logged in with your verified and authenticated HR account. So we would encourage you to communicate with your educators if you do require notification when they apply and are issued mentor certification. And then you can also, of course, verify that on teachlouisiana.net. So that is all the questions that I see. I can check my queue really quick and see if there are any. So one question, is there any consideration to extending the 10-1 deadline to be issued with the implementation of the new certification and all the logistics we have had to work out to get the applications connected? So Richland Parish, I'm assuming that is referring to mentor teacher and content leader. If so, Britt, do you have any questions regarding that?
The October 1 deadline is a hard deadline from several of the other departments. And so there hasn't been any discussion about making a change with that date.
Okay, thank you. And then there's one other question regarding mentor certification. What are you requiring for us to approve mentor waivers? I'm sending the snapshots of the emails that I received. That's really all we require. We just need to see when the email just needs to include all the relevant information. Again, the mentor's name, and when it was approved. And that can be included with the application. And so those are all the questions that all of our hosts did input into into our note catcher. And those are all the questions that I have also as well in my notes. So again, we just want to thank you so much for spending a little time with us this morning to go over all things certification, background credentialing, and educator development. As always, if you have any additional or follow-up questions, please feel free to reach us through the Teacher Certification Help Portal. The more information that you can provide, the better, and we will get back with you as quickly as possible. Again, thank you so much, and we will see you next month. Or hopefully in La Cespa next week.
If Dr.